welcome to 155, a punk cast about pod songs. Oh, I flubbed that so badly. Let me take that again.
No, that was charming.
My name is Sam Sutherland. Oh no, I'm so embarrassed. What's up? It's Josiah Hughes, and with me, as always,
it's me, also Josiah Hughes.
What?
That's right. We're in a multiplicity scenario. One of us is dumb. By the end, you're going to have to guess which. We're going to have a vote on our Twitter page. You can decide who's the original and who is the lesser clone.
Is that
very exciting?
Are you referring to the Michael Keaton movie?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I love Michael Keaton, and the idea of there being lots of Michael Keatons makes me really gets my motor running.
Listen, I don't mean to call you a liar, but if you profess to love Michael Keaton and there's a movie, I mean, very transparently, it's not like it's a twist. It's called Multiplicity, so it's right there in the title. You're going to see.
I don't know what that means.
It should be multi-keepany.
I've never used that word. I think I didn't realize how much I love him until I saw the other guys, and then I've just kind of been thinking about that for the last 10 years. And then we just watched on Disney Plus. We watched this movie that's like a propaganda movie with him called One Good Cop. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but it's fucking sick. And it's like, I thought it was going to be kind of a zany sort of 3 Men and a Baby kind of vibe, but instead it's like so intense and has like safty energy a little bit, and also Michael Keaton, who's just the perfect man. So maybe I need to watch some classic Keatons. Yeah,
it's time for you to sort of really dip into the creme de la Keaton, of which Multiplicity I don't know that really is, but you cannot go wrong with multiple Keatons. That's right. This week we are talking about Michael Keaton's favorite fest song. we are on the road to the fest.
Yeah, you need to explain this because there's quite a few issues here with the themes we've been doing lately. We haven't really been explaining them well. I forgot to make art for this month until today, and I just kind of did a Google image crawl for like punks with beards and PBR cartoons and pizza sharks and stuff. There's actually too many images to fit in one. I got an email from Adobe saying you're not allowed to add any more layers because there were so many.
It's too punk what you're doing.
So many fest-themed PNGs I found. But throughout this whole podcast, I think that this year we've kind of been like tying up the loose ends of things we used to discuss on Blink 155. For example, last week we kind of put an end to the question of whether or not we are D-beat experts, which of course we are. We absolutely are.
People have long wondered.
We're among the most respected in the subgenre. But also, over the years when I've talked to people who are maybe casual listeners of the pod, they always basically say to me, it's kind of like the age-old question / the name of every Gen Xer's college radio show, alternative to what? Is kind of similarly, people would say, what fest is Sam always talking about? What fest is it? They thought that you were maybe talking about, I don't know, the Toronto International Film Fest or Pop Montreal, or there's so many fests in this world. So that's the first question: is what exactly is the fest? And second of all, you're gonna do a whole damn month dedicated to that? What's that all about?
Well, Josiah, let me tell you. So this month we are covering, No Idea Records' very own The Fest, celebrating its 19th year. This October typically takes place around Halloween in the bucolic city of Gainesville, Florida. And for those who are not me, who have not listened to the show extensively, who have not spent time in Gainesville living off of 5-star pizza and Pabst Blue Ribbon, the Fest is sort of the spiritual home of a particular pop punk, post-punk subgenre known as orgcore, due to its popularity with the readers and editors of the website punknews.org, which I do think makes it the worst genre designation ever created. Like, people often talk about hating the way the genres, have been described or evolved. Gents obviously pretty bad as contemporary genre names go, but I do think
Chillwave
being named
the best ones came from Carl's at Hipster Runoff, like Chillwave, Bloghouse, etc. But I've got a big update for you right now as you're speaking. So again, I mean, this is all very insider.
How's Chewbacca?
Insider baseball, and I'm talking about modern baseball. Probably. I mean,
seen them play at the fest. Yeah.
The thing is, I've never heard any of these bands, and I just don't like them. But check this out. My connection is not private when I try to go to punknews.org. So, I mean, even that is punknews.org is a Canadian based, I think, punk website that kind of was known for being a little bit hoity-toity and kind of like really taking punk music more serious. I think was that kind
from
of
a news standpoint.
Was that kind of the vibe? They're like we wear dress shirts, but we like pop punk or something. That's my understanding of it.
I don't know that I would describe it as we wear dress shirts, we like pop punk. We should say off the top, it's been a long time, and I feel like we're going to get around to it. This week we are talking about the preeminent orgcore song by the preeminent orgcore band, Trusty Chords by Hot Water Music. And yeah, Punk News is inexplicably Canadian. The founder of Punk News lives in like Niagara Falls, and no one knew. Like, I have never met this person, and I live in Toronto and have been to sort of all of the requisite org core shows. But Aubin, who started Punk News, is I think probably does wear dress shirts.
His name is Aubin?
Yeah, Aubin. I think he's just like a normal guy. I talked to someone once who met him.
Yeah, like I feel like that's the thing is like so my understanding of this org core sub-genre, my understanding of the fest is that it's like it's almost like proudly normal. Like everyone's like, no, we go to shows where theoretically there could be a stage dive, but we're all normal, and I'm a normal guy who's doing this. It's kind of like a normal.
Yeah, I think it's just that like slightly off from center. Like a lot of the bands that are most closely associated with the sound have, at the very least, the veneer of being highly literate. Hot Water Music is named after a collection of Bukowski short stories.
Yeah, but like, exactly. Highly literate, but like, it's always Bukowski. It always comes back to Bukowski.
Yeah, it's always the most canceled.
Just the most normal. The most normal choice that you could always pick is what it is, I think.
Yeah, I think like it's the, I'm not quite ready to, drop out and disengage from society. And also I mostly just like pop music. Like I think the trick really of these bands, and I don't know that it's necessarily on purpose, but there's a reason why the most popular Hot Water Music song isn't one of the like real, gritty post-hardcore anthems from the 90s. It's like the poppiest song that they have. And that is really like the legacy of this band in terms of their descendants, is people not ripping off, stuff from Fuel for the Hate Game. It's all Caution, which is the album that this is from.
I'm looking at pictures of them, and they all just kind of look like a guy that you would see at Rona on the week. Like they're just like, it's all so normal. Is what
very Rona. I mean, I think here's the thing: Gainesville as a city has, I think three legacies, right? So it's where like Tom Petty is from, and I think there's a real dad rock legacy that is ultimately infused in a lot of these bands. It's like the spiritual pettiness. There's the legacy of No Idea as a zine, and then as a record label, and ultimately, I think, as with any sort of cities with a sort of specific sound, a specific scene that is cultivated by one kind of particular vision, unless you're getting like a host of other influences at all times, like you're a real big major metropolitan area, that kind of becomes like that's what sort of fertilizes the ground, right? That's the jizz in the soil of Gainesville that everything kind of springs from. And then, of course, the other thing that Gainesville is known for is the sorority row murders that informed the film Scream by Wes Craven. So I think when you mix up, Tom Petty kind of dad rock vibes, this like DIY but like rooted in pop, kind of like post-hardcore, which is the real origins, I think, of like that No Idea sound. And then also the gruesome murders of several sorority members on Sorority Row. That's where you get that classic org core flavor from. But I think the bottom line is, it appeals to like normies like me because
I think that's what I'm trying to clarify here. I don't even know if I mean normie. I think I mean...
It's not normies, it's normal.
It's like there's something...
maybe.
Like this picture is like the most normal-looking group of guys I've ever... There's so... Like I can't even wrap... There's nothing to even say about this picture other than it's just like... These guys are so normal. They're just like loading Kirkland products into the back of a truck. Like they're just like... You can't even they're unroastably normal, and that's just kind of what's incredible about it. And I kind of think it reminds me of when I was a teenager. I had this friend who was like, he so loved to. I don't know what is this built-in insecurity, but that some people have, but like he so loved to roast punk for the way that everyone quote had a uniform, and so he would refuse to wear Chuck Taylors. Even though we were all obviously wearing Chuck Taylors. And so he insisted on wearing, I guess, like the kind of shoes that he was a guy I grew up with that was in bands with him. But he like kind of refused to wear that. And so he would insist on getting these like, I think he would special order, and this is like pre-online shopping, but he'd special order these like all black Emerica shoes that were like just all black and like the plainest looking shoe ever, so that he just kind of looked like a like default character in Tony Hawk who hadn't been customized yet or something. It's like that's I feel like these people are waiting for someone to come customize them because they're so. But I think maybe that's the thing is that it's like we're a rock band, but instead of like thinking about being cool, we're thinking about we're thinking. Instead, we're just doing thinking stuff.
Yeah, just
thinking about books.
Too busy doing thinking. I think it's hard to say with a lot of these things, like whether it is because hot water music looks so normal that like all of the sort of descendants of this band and this sound, like, and the people who go to the fest also like dress the same way. I mean, ultimately, you're talking about people who are like college students and kind of dressed like college students in the 90s. Like that's what this is. So, this band is originally from Sarasota, but then they eventually ended up in Gainesville. Gainesville is like a full-on university town in a way that I think as a Canadian is hard to conceptualize because like the closest thing we have is like fucking Kingston or whatever, but Gainesville is like an American college town in the tradition that you see in like movies of American college towns. And so if you think about like what would you dress like in 1993 when this band was formed, if you like went to school and were into alternative to what type music, you dress like these guys, and then everyone that got into these guys also dresses like these guys? Or is it because everyone who listens to these bands is just a Kirkland dad to start? I don't really know.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, either way, more power to, I'm not even like saying this as a critique. It's incredible to me. I see a more recent image of them. One of them is wearing a Run the Jewels shirt, and then one of the guys looks so much like a gym teacher. Yeah, they're kind of pulling it off big time, and I think it's sick. But it's just kind of like it's something that I just can't like. I guess I just would approach music like this from an aesthetic standpoint first, probably because I had never heard them until today. And I think it's really interesting.
Was this really the first time that you heard Hot Water?
I must have heard them before, but I know about their logo, which is, again, like a very memorable logo that I know, obviously, big time tattoo fodder for for the normals out there. But like what they look like is so interesting because it's kind of like, ultimately, what I think it is probably is like we don't give a shit about your notions of rock music. We're not going to dress cool because that's like for mainstream society, and we're like we think outside of that. But then also, I feel like, and I'm really sorry if this is hurting someone's feelings, but I also feel like this band has like I'm sure at the time they were great, but these are like some of the worst album covers I've ever seen in my life. Like they're just like so garish and bad. And I think probably at the time they were very like refined and considered like thoughtful, but they really do look like second wave coffee shop art that has like a $60 sticker on it.
I'm the person who is offended. I mean, I love the Hot Water Music like design aesthetic, and it definitely like gets very festy like on the newer records, but I think like I think
the older ones that where it looks like it's so like Lilith Fair looking, I feel like that's what I'm talking about. That just is like, it's to me, I just look at that, I'm like, I'm not going to listen to this. I don't want to hear this.
You see, like I see a bunch of guys in flannel and I see that aesthetic, and I know like
because it makes you think about the act of thinking and being a normal guy who thinks.
That's it. I'm like, I could definitely do some thinking to this. some vital thinking.
And like I genuinely thought that the Lift Your Skinny Fists gatefold was beautiful. Well, like I'm the same way. I think it's like,
do you not think it's beautiful anymore? Have you given it up?
It's just like it's all so cheesy, all of it. But this is like kind of a similar thing, but then with some sort of like rustic coffee house kind of textural, like ground up coffee bean print kind of vibe. I don't know. It's not for me. And I think that's why all of this leading up to listening to it, I was expecting the music to be a lot more annoying, but like this is a pretty great song, to be honest.
Right. So, okay. Your first experience listening to Kirkland's own Hot Water Music with Trusty Chords. I mean, definitely the hit, definitely
also
the poppiest song.
The song title just makes me want to die already. It's like it's somehow more annoying than saying you need 3 chords in the truth or whatever. Like it's just like I've got these trusty chords and I'm gonna use it to do some thinking over music. You know, it's like I hate it so much, but I gotta admit the song was really good.
Love how. I do understand what you're driving at, kind of devoid of context. And then when you hear it, you're like, damn, those are some good trusty chords. But I do want to play, like, as a bit of a level set because you've never heard Hot Water Music before. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that there are full-on eras, although I guess there are because they kept breaking up and getting back together.
It's almost like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There's like all this lore and imagery where you're just like, I don't want to know about all this shit. So you know that it exists and it's grinding along, but until someone sits, so I appreciate this. I needed someone to show me, maybe we can do a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy episode too.
Definitely. I'm sure there's some great Hitchhikers like influenced punk music for us to do. That could be a good we should do like a thinking music exclusive or something. Really get into number one best thinking. But I want to level set here a little bit with Hot Water Music playing Turnstile, one of the other big hits, but like in 1995. Like just like what a different kind of era.
I mean, Turnstile is so good.
I do wonder if is because there are a lot of bands named after Hot Water songs. Is Turnstile the band named after Hot Water Music? I googled this for like 2 seconds and could not find out if that's true.
I don't know. They probably are, but would never admit it because it's like cooler to just pretend you're not. Yeah, I think I have maybe heard this band before because I remember the vocals being more like this, where it's like. It's so much. No wonder he doesn't have time to plan out an outfit. The bass player is sick as hell in this, though. He reminds me of the Rage Against the Machine bass player.
His vibe has not changed. Like less hair, absolutely same vibe.
So they really do love the trusty chords, hey? Do they always do this chord progression?
Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of consistent. But like this is at the this performance 1995. It's the Hardback Cafe, which was sort of like the spot in Gainesville for these bands. It is now a restaurant owned by the former drummer of Against Me. So it's just like all very much feels like if you were like trying to just sort of make fun of Gainesville and be like, oh yeah, now it's a Tex-Mex restaurant or whatever called Boca Fiesta, or Mouth Party, owned by the former drummer of Against Me, and it's like a kind of shishi kind of Mexican place.
Well, I guess
which is
that's
appropriate enough.
That's the other thing I was kind of thinking about when I was just kind of doing my vibe-based thoughts about hot water music earlier. Was kind of like, I feel like people say, I've never been, but my understanding of fest, or do you say the fest or just fest, is the other thing I don't actually know.
I would simply say in conversation, I'd say fest, but that's because like Fest and I are close buds. I would expect you to use the honorific the.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that because I'm not definitely not.
You're not. You don't have the sort of intimacy, I think, to drop the.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm fine with that. I also think it's borderline arrogant to name your festival the Fest, but I kind of respect it in a way. But my understanding of the Fest is that maybe it used to be kind of grimier. And like all things, it's been cleaned up and probably has, they accept major credit cards everywhere, and like it's turned into kind of more of a the fest kind of thing, where it's like a little bit more cleaned up. And this video you're showing me right now, Turnstile, I feel like I can smell sweat and body odor outside of just my own typical smells while I watch it. But I feel like my understanding of this music and this culture is that the beards have changed over the years. They've become slightly more groomed, but in a way that they should still look messy. But they kind of smell like pomade or coconut oil, or there's different fragrances in the. It's definitely the BO is gone, and it's turned into some sort of beard oil. Different kind of BO, I guess.
It's definitely beard oil scented now. I mean, look, we sort of started to talk about this. We swerved into Turnstile and Boca Fiesta, but in the interest of kind of laying the groundwork for this month, right? So Fest, it's the Gainesville, the city, run by No Idea, the record label, and kind of becomes like the de facto like Fest band and like they are the same, right? So like oftentimes you will hear you or I talk about maybe a friend of yours who loves Gainesville talking about someone being a Fest band. And you're right. Like I think the humble beginnings of this are like very stinky and real. My first introduction to the Fest is in a DVD that I got when I worked at Exclaim, which was the DVD of Fest 3. And it, appropriately enough, has hot water music on it. I couldn't find I have the DVD still, but I have no way to rip it or show it to you. But has Against Me, has hot water music, like the kind of like thesis statement bands, I think, of this sound of, Gainesville, but then also like Planes Mistaken for Stars, Fifth Hour Hero, shout out Montreal, like North Lincoln, really like great and ultimately kind of diverse bands. Like Baroness is on this DVD. Towards the Kill,
the Holy Mountain. I think wasn't that like borderline screamo shit? Or maybe I'm thinking
totally. Blood Brothers, who are borderline Blood Brothers.
Some white belt going on. Yeah, and that's true. Like a lot of like folk punk stuff too, right? At the time.
Totally. Folk punk, like a huge part of the kind of like Gainesville vibe. But you are right. These days, like the last fest that I went to was maybe a year or two after they had started doing the outdoor shows. So they moved everything. There used to be the big venue was called The Venue. And that was where all the kind of like bigger bands
real
would play.
Creative bunch down there.
I know. And the bigger bands would be like, in this instance, it'd be like Leatherface was like the headliner or whatever, Sam I Am, or Bouncing Souls. And now all those shows take place outdoors in a sort of like big, beautiful public plaza, which is like great. But you're right. It's more beard oil scented. I mean, I think it also has to do with the fact that even though it's not that these bands, like it's not hot water music is not like a commercially successful band, but on some level they are an example of like the most commercially successful band in this kind of world. I mean, I guess Against Me is potentially kind of bigger, maybe, I don't know, maybe less than Shakespeare. I mean, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but like there's sort of a ceiling to it, but it is really interesting because you have this place where everyone who likes those bands is in one place at one time, right? Which is always like when you hear people kind of talk about what's magic about it is it's kind of like if you're a band, like if you're in a band like say Junior Battles and you play to 5 people in every city in America, you can go there and all of those 5 people go. And I don't know that there is like and this is sort of what people kind of try to articulate about it in terms of like why it's special, why it's gone on for 19 years, how it gets away with calling itself the Fest, is this idea that there isn't necessarily, I think, another punk subculture or like really like hardcore, maybe metal, where there's like one thing. Because there's a few good metal festivals and there's a few good hardcore festivals. But if you are into bands that look and sound like they're getting ready for their shift at Rona, this is the only thing. Like, Hot Water will play Riot Fest, but Riot Fest will also have all kinds of other shit. Like, this is kind of the only place.
Well, yeah, I guess,
and that's why we're doing this all month, because I think there's enough here for us to dig into.
Well, and also because it's your favorite. This is your favorite shit ever. I mean,
this
you love it, and that's. I'm gonna be mean, obviously. That's why I'm here. But I'm excited for you to try to show me why it's your favorite. I can't wait to figure it out. I think I saw a meme that I forget what the subject was. Actually, I shouldn't even say it out loud because I don't remember. But it was something like, "Good dick will have you laid up." Like, oh, so these are. Tell me about the plot of this. I think it was some sort of like really stupid macho movie, and it was a girl saying that good dick would. So what I'm saying is you have metaphorically given me some good dick, and so now I'm like, oh, Sam, tell me more about I'm trying to see which would be a funny name to say from this list, but I can't. Tell me more about Army of Punch, Sam.
Right, I mean, Army of Punch, pretty sick. I do want to play, because this is I was trying to look for like videos from like the first year I went to Fest, which was Fest 7. Hot Water did not play that year. I believe this was sort of during their dark time when they were broken up. But there literally is a documentary made about the first year that I went to Fest called Fested.
What did you say about
A Journey to Fest 7. And I wanted to play it for you because I feel like after sort of giving you that good dick, this is the real dick. Like this is designed, I think,
just laid up
like,
on your chest. We got a TV mounted on the wall, and we're watching this together.
And so this is Fested, A Journey to Fest 7.
This is leading up to the year that you were there.
This is a document of other people going to the Fest year that I went to for the first time. And it's just a bunch of people drinking PBR, talking about drinking.
Bearded, tattooed, family.
Let's go.
The bearded thing is a big part of this.
It's funny how you were saying.
I don't think you can really comprehend. Like,
Oh my God, that guy's British.
Gone into it. Like,
Yeah, I know, it's not right.
270 bands over 3 days.
270 bands for bloody 50 quid.
Yeah, I'm going to let that play without sound so you can, so we can just sort of discuss the vibes.
You were saying how there's like, there's no other fest that's just like as directly one subculture as this is. But I feel like this is specifically like
it's the high holy days.
the people who would complain that everyone at This Is Hardcore or Chaos and Teos dresses this all the same and it's all a clique. These are the people who complain that hardcore is a clique. They started their own fest, I think. For better, that's fine. But
but I actually think that's an interesting way of articulating it, because something that I think we've talked about, on this pod and on sort of the Battle pod is, the idea that it's Kyle Crochet interviewing the guy from the Lawrence office. That like this stuff doesn't feel cool. Like in terms of like Hot Water music doesn't feel like you look at a picture of Hot Water music and you're like, I could definitely be one of these guys because I dress the same and I also just like look fucking normal as shit. And I think like those festivals, like those punk and hardcore scenes, like honestly, like the sort of like hardcore scene in Toronto, like feels cool to a degree that is like very alienating, like and has always felt very alienating to me personally, because I'm just like, I'm not cool. I'm never gonna like be like, and especially when you like the shit that you like, or like I kind of just like pop songs, but with people playing them louder. And you're right. I do think there's a tendency to be like, those people are cliquey and those people are whatever. So instead you build your own like totally aesthetically defined cliquey,
exactly,
cliquey space.
It's just the beautiful churn of culture that just happens over and over again, and I love it. But yeah, I get it. I also think that like Fest to me just seems a lot like youth group and youth convention in that same way where it's like you're like, yeah, there's this innocence and we're all a community and a family, and like, I don't know, it reminds me I just think that you would love church, Sam. I just think you got to try it out sometime.
But this is like honestly like church for people who started drinking in their 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are absolutely zero experienced drinkers at Fest, but unless someone is like purposefully ideologically sober, it is full of people who like are absolutely, to use a cliche, like having their first beer. Every fucking beer that they crack is
beer
the
is your first.
Like I know of which I speak. Like there's an approach to consumption, but that doesn't, like, I'm sure people do drugs at Fest, but it's like so alcohol focused. You know, there's a reason why in this song, there's like the chorus of this song is about having a hangover from drinking too much Jameson.
Yeah, that part definitely. So I wanted to talk about these lyrics real quick, if that's okay. I don't really know what this song is about, and I was liking that for most of the time, and then it started to seem like these are the lyrics that everyone else is ripping off when they're talking about like journeying down the highway forever.
Oh yeah, this is patient zero of like all your favorite types of songs.
But then the part where they name check Jameson, I was like, okay, I'm out. I can't do this. And also just
is it because you're sober or because it's corny?
I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say both, probably. But becoming sober makes things that were corny so much more corny. You wouldn't believe it.
Right, you're just like, oh, this is fucking brutal. Yeah,
my corny goggles are I don't know. I can't think of it. What I'm trying to say. But also, the funny thing about Fest, which I think is true of a lot of things, but there is this like real earnest man vibe that I think this whole culture and vibe is predicated on this idea of like being true to yourself and authentic and singing from the heart and stuff. But it's all like, it kind of just seems all crazily phony to the point where the chorus of this was making me think about that. I hate this place, but I love these chords. Like that's like the classic line of org chord, to be like, I hate it here. Oh, I'm so tired. I hate it here, whatever. And it's like, but look, you're all like screaming into each other's faces and like sweating all over each other's tank tops the whole time. That's what I find interesting about this, is this like fear.
Sleeveless shirts, not tank tops, please.
The fear of intimacy that is kind of coached in this sort of pseudo fake authenticity that I think, I mean, not necessarily this song, but the culture at large, kind of that's what I've observed from a distance.
Well, again, I think it's a question, and, we've talked about this with a lot of bands. I think Hot Water, and now on some level, less Hot Water as a band and like literally this song as a song, because I do think that like if you were to listen to like the first two Hot Water music records, like you'd you like this song too, but like you'd really love them. And I think like understand that there's more nuance here than I think superficially meets the eye. But like this song is so fucking good, and I think it's perfect in its kind of general, like, is it a breakup song? I don't really think it is. Is it just like you feel like a fuck up in your life song? Like, yes, it's kind of just that. Like, are you just like miserable today? It's sort of just that. Like, there is a very appealing lack of specificity in here. Like, it sort of hints at specific reasons why you might feel like shit. The most specific that it gets is like a brand of Irish whiskey. But otherwise, the whole thing is sort of like open to this general feeling of like, something that I don't think you and I are fully equipped to sort of like talk about, but you heard it a little bit in that Festa trailer. It's like, it's about beards, it's about whatever. It's like, okay, well, like when you're defining a whole genre and a scene by like beards, you are naturally excluding some people, right? When you call a genre of music beardcore, which is like infinitely worse than orgcore,
oh god,
you are excluding people. And I actually think that the sort of like malaise and the anger that is captured by Hot Water in specifically a song like this is not dissimilar, and this is a conversation that I think we've been having in a larger pop cultural way over the last few months, than like the sourceless white male rage that was represented so effectively by nu metal, and that is now being deconstructed so effectively by Moby and a variety of documentaries. But it's interesting when you think about the fact that, like, and on an individual basis, people have like reasons they might feel like shit. But I kind of think that in general, you know, your assessment of like orgcore and people reading and writing for punknews.org of being like, I'm going to wear a dress shirt, but I also listen to punk music. While I sort of chafed at the aesthetic description, I kind of think that that's like, it's a very like middle class genre. And in a lot of ways put up a lot of signifiers to start that I think felt very like white guy middle class genre. And that's not true when you like look into like the people who attend and the actual bands that play, but there's like a not unfair superficial reading of that. And on some level, I think this song, I think there's some interesting parallel to be drawn with like just this like I'm fucking mad at shit of like being in grade 8 and getting into nu metal, and then getting a little bit older and being like, I'm sad at shit, and now I'm into hot water music. And I don't necessarily know why, because I'm in this wonderful place with all my friends singing a song that I love.
Yeah, I just think in general it's this kind of like, and yeah, I mean, like I said, I like this song. No disrespect. I hope none of the guys named Chris beat me up next time I'm walking through a Kirkland parking lot. But I think in general it's kind of this thing that I find so funny is this idea of sincerity, but it's so unspecific that it kind of feels like sort of emotional dry humping or something, where no one's just like, it's kind of just like everyone's edging emotionally, but not really communicating what it is. Cause maybe they don't even know what they're trying to communicate. So they're just like, but the idea of like a sad empty parking lot or a dive bar or whatever is like such a cool vibey idea. So that's what they're attracted to, but it's so unspecific that it's kind of like everyone's edging together. It's
yeah,
great.
I mean, look, it feels like you're taking a shit on dry humping, and like, admittedly, it's probably been a long time for you or I since the humps were dry, but like, it's not bad. Like, do you have any really bad memories of dry humping?
That's true, I guess. Yeah, you got me there. Taking a shit on dry humping is also a beautiful mixed metaphor, I think.
Yeah, totally. I think what you are sort of very reasonably taking issue with, though, is that the people who have just people like bands that have tirelessly attempted to rewrite this song and capture this feeling. Our guest this week, who I don't want to reveal yet, I'm going to steer back into that being a gimmick. When we were messaging about them coming on, this like literally called this like the perfect or like the most popular fest song. What did they say? Literally the biggest fest song of all time. Like, I think this song, all of the cliches that, you know, you and I talk about, the being arm in arm with your brothers in the pit. I don't know why I'm doing the accent with it.
Well, that's
you know, this is that song because it's such a big fucking chorus. And it feels so much like a perfect distillation of the emotional center of Fest, which is this sort of like kind of being like all of these bands just constantly saying about being fucking miserable, right? Like Off With Their Heads, just songs about being depressed. And I think there are people who are actually depressed who write this music and listen to this music, but I think there's a lot of people that are like emotional tourists, right? But when I think about like, you know, first time go to Fest 7, it's like you go see, you know, Bomb the Music Industry sing about being depressed, and I'm going to go see O Pioneers sing about being depressed. And like, am I myself actually depressed? No. But do I feel some sort of like relation to those? Yes. And why is that? I weirdly, I do think your dry humping metaphor, like I think we've established that it rocks, but also that I think it is maybe kind of apt, right? It's like the way that, you know, having an animal, having a pet is like training wheels for going through actual loss when you're older, you know, like a dog dies,
right.
And like, that's fucking tragic. Then eventually one day, like someone in your immediate family dies and you're like, it's like the dog. I recognize this.
This reminds me of my dog. What happened?
Yeah. And I kind of think on some level, like, you know, and Hot Water are still like making records, like writing songs that I like. But I think for most people, like I was kind of shocked, you know, we'll get to this in a bit when we do covers. I thought we were going to get like 50 covers for this song because I was like, this is a fucking anthem. And we got like 5 covers in for people to listen to this because I think now this song is sort of like a snapshot for older people. Like this is classic rock.
Yeah, which I mean, shout out to classic rock. That's sick. And again, I want to reiterate. I'm not like mad about any of it for existing in this way, or like write a song however you want about whatever you want. That's fine. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that like because of the way this is presented, intentionally or not, how it's like we don't care about aesthetic. I just think when I was listening to this song, it kind of had like a mid-tempo bounce to it that secretly made me think a tiny bit of the Strokes. And then it made me think about how in the 2000s people were like, fuck the Strokes, they just wear skinny jeans and like play that, you know, their songs are just like all meaningless or whatever. But it's like my big picture understanding of this genre of music is that this is a lot of music that's pretending to be meaningful, which I think is a lot worse than just being cool and writing a song about how cigarettes are cool or whatever.
Well, no, and I think you're totally right. And again, this is where like this is not Hot Water Music's fault. It's not Trusty Chords' fault because this song is like, in my opinion, like as close to like a perfect. Like this is the song for an entire moment in my life, but it is still like this is the quintessential Fest song, and I fucking love Fest, and I think this like captures the promise of what that community of bands and that feeling can mean and can just can sound like. You know, I think the song fucking rocks. However, I think what happens as a result is exactly what you've described, which is like people writing sort of derivatives of this song where you mistake the idea of like pushing your voice as being a thing that makes something real. So yeah, whereas like the Strokes feels like calculated in how cool and detached it is, and you turn away from that because you're like, I'm sorry, I like things that are more authentic. And then some band is like this was like, because Fest continues to balloon, but I feel like there was a moment where like watching Fest from like, you know, Fest 7 to I think Fest 13 was maybe the last time I went to Fest. And like the fucking growth that happened, like again, going from the venue to these big outdoor plaza shows was like so intense. And so obviously this sort of coincides with me trying to like make being in a band work, you know, playing, like touring, seeing a lot of these bands. I became very, very, I would describe myself as potentially bitter kind of towards the end of like us trying to like tour and like be in a, have junior battles, like be a thing or whatever, because you'd go down to Fest and you'd be like, this band fucking sucks. And their songs are just like really mediocre pop songs, but like, they're singing them in the Chris voice or in the Chuck voice. And the fucking dummies who I think really only approached this music from an exceedingly superficial aesthetic standpoint, like couldn't fucking tell the difference. Now, this is 100% rooted in jealousy. Like I'm talking about bands that became more popular than junior battles, but like people would tell
anyone who wants to know the names, I'll DM you. I know.
Yeah, I'll go in on this. I don't give a shit. But like what you're describing was like absolutely, and I think now like Hot Water truly has become like the grandfathers in this community. You know, more so than like Roach Motel or any of the like real like the 80s kind of Gainesville kind of punk and hardcore bands. And as a result, I think is receding. Like I think there's like more bands that are into the like Mobo sound and like doing more of that thing. And like honestly, I think the current wave of like Fest type bands.
Sorry, what's Mobo?
That's modern baseball.
All right, this episode is over.
Yeah, but like now, the thing that's super fucking strange to me now is everyone that I grew up with, like our generation of bands, like all were just ripping off Hot Water music. And now people who are 5 to 10 years younger than me, all their bands are just ripping off Bomb the Music Industry and Jeff Rosenstock, which is like very strange because you're like, wait, I was actually there for that fucking thing. And I think the current crop of Fest bands are taking, once again, sometimes I think bands ripping off Jeff are much better than bands that have ripped off Hot Water music. But there's a similar thing where I think like what was so effective about those Bomb the Music Industry records and just solo stuff, but that's sort of in a totally different plane, I think, is that it communicated authenticity in a different way than Hot Water did, but that it connected with people in a similar vein because you were like, this guy fucking means it, my God. And now you have a sort of generation of people who like, that was the band and that feeling is sort of what they're chasing. And so they are like singing like Jeff and they are incorporating more disparate genres in the same way that Bomb did in the same way Jeff did.
I love that like chasing the authenticity dragon just inspires people to rip off other artists.
Because most people are dreadfully unoriginal. Like myself, like I don't know if you think of yourself as being like a tremendously original creative thinker, but like I've settled into a point in my life where I know that I'm fucking not.
I have the opposite. Like this is going to sound so humble braggy, but I assure you it's not. I've never had any success in my life. My most successful thing is this podcast, which is, wonderful, but not really. It's something that requires this much explaining to a relative is not really a success. I don't think in grand scheme of things. But like I have the opposite problem where around this same time, I think something similar was happening with like punk that was more catered towards the lo-fi or garage scene, where I knew people who would literally read Terminal Boredom like it was like the trades, and they would figure out what was trending next, and they would just like start a band that sounded exactly like it, and it would work every time, and they would just always like start the most perfect band that would perfectly get signed and get a 7-inch put out, and there was no songs at all, and all I ever wanted was for someone to just be like, hey, do you want to do a 7-inch with us? And it was always like a fucking uphill battle because whenever I sit down to write music, I'm like as hard on myself as I am on anything else or more so because I've talked so much shit in my life. I feel like I have to make sure I show my work a little bit, but I'm like incapable of ripping something off too much because I'm racked with this guilt from it. And I also I just can't do it. But then, as a result, no one ever wants to like put me on their bill or sign me or anything. Like I was just always felt so alienated because I didn't want to do that. So I don't know. I was kind of the opposite way, but I can understand. Like it just makes me want to bash my head against the wall when I see that happening because it works every time, and that's the worst part.
Yeah, I mean that's probably true. But again, when I think about like starting junior battles, it was like all I listened to was punknews.org bands and all I read was punknews.org, and I don't think it was necessarily like trying to rip those things up, but like it was also like if that's all you consume, reading Turtle Boardroom like it's the trades is very funny though.
Yeah I just sent you a name into the Discord, but like obviously for sure. I don't know, so I get it, but it's just the weird thing about that is also if your whole thing is just ripping off bands. I mean, we've not talked about this band or this song at all this week, and it's kind of fun, honestly.
But here's the thing. I think we're talking about sort of because to me this is, now what the song comes out in this is 2002, so I don't really know how math works, but the fest has already been,
at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Damn, you're right. We have not talked about it at all. But I think like what we're talking about is I think it's very important, 2002 to lean into like the sort of vibe based notion of this podcast. So like, look, Caution is a great record, great recording job. Brian McTernan, we're good. We've kind of talked about the song.
Let me see the album cover. Oof. All right, that's
so sick, so fucking sick.
It looks like a pamphlet about depression that a doctor would give you in 1993.
It is so good. I agree. It's great. Like I think that I truly love this era of like the hot water aesthetic. So you're wrong about that, or also pamphlets about depression rock. But I do think the idea of like, look, what we wanted to talk about this month was like we wanted to dig into this fest thing because I love it and you fucking profess to hate it, and I do think this song is like this is the thesis statement of fest, and it is the things that are the best about it, which is that like I have never felt like truly I've never had more fun at a concert in my life than like the top 100 live show memories that I fucking have are from fest, are like that experience, this energy that gets so fucking focused in a way that like festivals, quote unquote, like I've never had that experience at like a normal festival. And so many people tried to rip off fest, right? Like there was, especially again, I think at the sort of peak commercial viability of this music, there was like a regional fest everywhere. Like, you know, we played Rad Fest in Wilmington, and then Pouzza Fest has now been going for like 10 fucking years in Montreal, which is like an example of something actually being successful. But there was like a ton of these things that sort of tried to capture that energy and couldn't quite do it. But like the way that we joke about like being arm in arm with your brothers in the pit, like that is this fucking song. Like when that's the thing that is what plays in my head when you make that joke. When I've seen bands cover, like this is one of those things where like when I see a band cover the song, I'm like fucking glasses come off. Like there's like a absolute Pavlovian response.
And that's what I love about this weird tension is like what I was saying about the lyrics of these kinds of songs, being arm in arm with your brother in the pit, but do you really know your brother deep down?
Damn. That's some heady shit. Let's watch Hot Water Music play this song with Bouncing Souls at Fest 10. A truly spectacular.
See, somehow in my mind, Bouncing Souls are more like the Strokes than Hot Water Music in this dichotomy. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why.
It's because they have this cool walking around swagger, whereas
true.
Hot Water Music has like more of a stuck in traffic swagger.
I did find. I mean, like, and this venue has 1,000 people in it, and it looks like this the whole way back, right?
Yeah. Wait, were you at this?
Yeah, I found my tweet from it, which is from the Junior Battles account, which is saw Hot Water Music and Bouncing Souls play together, plus Ted Leo in full makeup singing Hybrid Moments. Hashtag Fest 10 until we die. Which, like, I don't like Ted Leo, but I do love Hybrid Moments. I think we were there because Joel really likes Ted Leo. Of course he fucking does. All right, well, let's get to this chorus.
I found it really good.
I did it kind of on purpose.
I found a lot of tweets from you about this, actually.
Oh, listen to them go.
So, like, everyone in this band whose name isn't Chuck is named Chris, right?
Yeah. It's three Chris's and a Chuck.
So who's Chris Wallard?
Yeah, Chris Wallard sings this song, and he is.
Oh, he's the guy singing. It's not Chuck singing this one.
No, Chuck. You would like the Chuck songs.
So is
more.
Chuck the guy who's more like pushing it, and Chris is more chill?
Yeah. Chris is a little more chill. I feel like Kyle Crochet, who I offhandedly mentioned because he's in the Fest 7 documentary, he plays in another band named after a Hot Water Music song called Wayfarer, who are like a legitimately fucking sick post-hardcore band from Kitchener-Waterloo. He joked that like getting old and being into Fest was realizing that you preferred the Chris in every punk band. Like that when you were younger, like Chuck Reagan is like a cartoon of a man. Like when he's just like a fishing, hunting, like beautiful beard, beautiful long hair, like just burly, like stock man character. And so he seems, and he is legitimately very fucking cool. And then when you're like the Lawrence Arms, another quintessential Fest band, you're like, oh, Brendan Kelly's so funny and wacky and shit. And they are both partnered with a Chris, as is legally required for any band in the scene. And then you get older and you realize that the subtleties in the Chris's songwriting are maybe more your style than what appealed to you as a boy. And inevitably, of course, I'm using boy because this is all just despicably gendered.
Well, I just did Chris Wallard, not unlike Chris Walla of Death Cab. Did Chris Wallard leave the band or something?
Yeah, Chris Walla style. Chris Wallard left the band, so there may or may not be a fresh Chris.
I guess we'll find out
that
soon.
We could perhaps talk to
maybe one with
about
basically
that.
2 Chris's in his name, possibly. But
if we're lucky, we're going to get double Chris's.
So this Chris Wallard, also not unlike Chris Walla, seems to have tried dabbling in a solo career. Is that true?
Oh, they've all dabbled. Yeah, Chris Wallard and the Ship Thieves are a fucking sick band.
Well, yeah, because on February 1st, 2016. You tweeted it. It's got 1 retweet and 5 likes. Among them is Jake Goldsby, former guest of the pod, former actor on Degrassi. He liked it. You said, this is what you said about Chris Wallard. You said, every song on the new Chris Wallard has that Ripper, Trusty Chords vibe where you drive across America until your skeleton turns to dust.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? I want to reclaim that guy. Like, I want to be that guy again.
Because that's you. That's great.
That is me. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Absolutely. There are some.
I love driving across America. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love it. And honestly,
but how do you feel about your skeleton turning to dust?
Well,
I don't know about that.
I listen to the Killers the whole time when I do it, so I'm not that far, really.
Okay. There's a couple of more tweets because this was like easily the most tweeted about band. You and I have sort of recently discovered this great trick where we just search for the band that we're talking about and people that we follow and see who said something funny, or if we could have them as a guest. A couple of good hot water music tweets. Here's one from Sunny Side Up, friend of the pod, guest of the pod. What do steampunks listen to? Hot water music. Thank you. Good night. I think that's a great little joke.
Really good.
Here's a joke from Ivan, Joanna Newsom 41, also friend of the pod, guest of the pod. And this specifically relates to Trusty Chords. A reminder, we talked about it, but the chorus is, I hate this place, but I love these chords. If hot water music were from Nebraska, I hate this place, but I love this corn.
That's terrible.
Funny Ivan tweet.
That's awful. Ivan needs to stop being encouraged on Twitter, I think.
Here's a pre-Miles tweet.
There's two really good pre-Miles tweets. The first
you want
one,
to read the pre-Miles tweets?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. I feel like I'm the de facto rep for the Gulch pod because that's truly the greatest pod on earth, and definitely not. I think that here's the thing that I do want to say sincerely. I think they kind of Miles told me that, like, at least partially we inspired them to start their podcast, but it's not what you were describing of a band ripping off another band. Like, there's been so many podcasts we've inspired that are just like kind of our podcast, but Gulch Pod is like such a beautiful its own thing that is almost impossible to describe. So it's kind of like that is the kind of thing, because now that we're at the age where people tell us we inspired them, and I'm like, yo, but I'm still broke also. Like, I still need to become...
That's how you know that you're inspirational.
I need to become more popular first before I can... But, it's so sick when someone inspires you and it's like something as unique as that. So everyone should check out It's a Beautiful Day in the Gulch. And this is what Miles said about hot water music. First of all, he said, imagining showing hot water music to anyone under the age of 100, which definitely maybe a bit hyperbolic, but also, this is my favorite one. The reason that my hairline is prematurely receded is because as a kid, I listened to hot water music and the Hold Steady. Which, like, your hair, I think you have a strong hairline, don't you?
I think I'm the exception that proves the rule in terms of, because there's that old, do you remember the Your Scene Sucks, like the sort of cartoons of like different punk subcultures that circulated.
Yeah, like different kinds of guys.
I mean, 15 fucking years ago, and the org core one, a key component is the cap to conceal receding hairline. So like, it is. It's been a part of this culture for a long time, and no, I'm bucking the trends. But you know what it is, because I listen to other bands too.
Dude, but like I shouldn't even say this out loud because it's like I'm so paranoid. But no one in my family has ever gone bald, and the last time I shaved my head, I was like, is my hairline different than last? Like, I feel like I have more of a widow's.
Stronger?
I know I have more of a widow's peak, and I'm afraid that it's like receding in the middle, and I'm so freaked out. So maybe I do need to start listening to hot water music.
You do. You have a very sick widow's peak.
I don't know. I think it's growing. I'm getting scared. I'm getting scared that there's something strange is happening up there. The last thing I want to say about their name is kind of the thing I was thinking about is like they're called hot water music. And there's not too many people who deign to put music in their band name. It's like Roxy Music or maybe the collective PC Music, and then Hot Water Music. But it's funny because PC Music, in the great binary of whether you're a Mac or a PC, they do seem more like a Mac, whereas Hot Water Music does seem like more of a PC. So that's kind of what I was thinking about today.
Interesting. I also think it's kind of problematic that you would use the term binary in describing PC music, but that's fine.
I was talking about the binary of Macs or PC. No one's going to argue with that. Look, not to do the well-trod meme setup, but those are the two genders, obviously, Mac and PC.
Before we get into covers and see what we can do to your hairline, I did do a check. Again, a couple of great old hot water videos that I'm just going to watch this weekend. But I did find, this was like a little bit of a hard episode to do research for. Most of it we didn't touch on because we had more interesting things to talk about. But I did find a cover of Junior Battles playing Trusty Chords that we uploaded. In 2013,
you found it, or you had it in your back pocket all along?
No, I found it in my great sort of Twitter search, but mostly because I'll give you a hint. This is not a Trusty Chords cover. This was our attempt at being the bad boys of the Orgcore scene, where we acknowledged that performing in the style of, or literally performing hot water music songs was the only way to really get attention. So when we were recording our album, we were uploading, videos, we were like, oh, and here we are doing Trusty Chords. But then a little bit of a switcheroo occurs.
Guys are just the cutest little geeks of all time.
Just the bad boys of the fest. Getting in.
So works.
Getting in some japes. I want to say, 2013, it was not cool to like pop music. So very, very proud of us.
And now it's not cool to not like. That's how far. Speaking of PC, that's how far culture has gone. Now you're not allowed to not like Dojo Cat these days. Nowadays,
let's find out what our guest thinks of Doja Cat, eh?
Let's not pretend he's been here the whole time. That bit is old, and now the new bit is talking about the bit that we used to do instead.
Yep, we're into meta bits because we've invented meta commentary in a podcast.
We really have, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this all out, or will I? Sam, who do we have with us? This is this is the interesting thing. I've never spoken to him until today, but of course we're mutuals because through this podcast I'm becoming mutuals with basically all of Canada music scene, and it's great to be meeting people this way. But we've talked a lot about how having people from the band on a episode about the same band is
bad.
It's usually kind of weird and not that great, but. Ultimately, this guy's here because he's a fan of us first.
That's what's important. Is the power is finally on our side, so we can be honest without fear of reprisal.
So, welcome to the show, Chris Cresswell. What's up?
What's up, you guys? Huge fan. Listen,
lay it on me.
So nice.
Lay it on me.
It's really weird to see. Sam and I have known each other for years, but Josiah, like you and I have messaged back and forth for how long? Like a few years here and there,
the scary
really
thing
cool to finally see you moving on a screen in front of me. Yeah,
it's beautiful. I don't usually turn my camera's not on for everyone. Just so you know,
this is an honor that we've bestowed on you to be able to gaze at Josiah. Yeah,
you say how long has it been, and that's kind of the scary thing. Is I still feel like we just started, and I'm kind of afraid my life is getting away from me right now.
We were talking like earlier in this episode about whether your hairline was receding.
Mm-hmm, yeah, doesn't it seem like it's going up here a bit more? You guys can maybe help me.
It's just a more pronounced widow's peak, man. It's good.
I didn't have that before.
It just means that you're smarter now. You're just smarter. Yeah.
Is that true?
That's all
you look like you've been listening to smart bands.
I've had a receding hairline for so long, and I used to just have like real shaggy kind of I never pulled my hair back. So my whole life I had like a high hairline, and the moment I started pulling my hair back with getting into cool stuff like product and shit like that. You know what I mean? I have some sponsors that I have to I'll have to say
of course.
That tracks with the episode too, actually. But
so Chris,
I shocked people when they saw my hairline. I was like, I don't know, and then people I would quickly be made to feel uncomfortable about the hairline I'd always had, but was undoubtedly getting going further and further back. And then people, I think, would realize they offended me. And they'd say, "Oh no, you're just, you're so wise. You're so smart. Like I'm fucking 19 years old and already going bald. I don't know if it's my IQ level."
As long as I get to go full bald and I can do like a Doug March kind of, or Will Oldham, have like the big tufty long hair and
the fringe,
just a full bald head. That would be sick as hell. But I don't know. I'm not sure about this Widow's Peak. I'm scared. I'm really scared, you guys. So that's my opening up to you before we get into this. But so you are technically in the band Hot Water Music, but you are a fan of our podcast first and foremost, but also even when we were searching through, like, because our new thing is we search the band and see the people that we're mutuals with, what they've been tweeting about it. Like, for the longest time, seeing Sam's tweets and some other people is like, it was a really exciting thing that you joined Hot Water Music because you were first and foremost a fan, right? And that never I think of that Mark Wahlberg movie.
I was going to say, it's the Mark Wahlberg movie, right?
And you know what's funny is I wasn't thinking of the Rock one. I was thinking of the one where he's like a guy who gets to join the NFL, like the lesser one. But
I was actually thinking of The Departed.
Right. I was thinking of Multiplicity with Michael Keaton.
Complicated.
So tell us what that was like. Like, how did that happen? That's so cool.
It's and I still don't really understand how it, I know how it sequentially went down, you know what I mean? But it still doesn't feel real. It's still a very surreal part of my life that, I don't know. It's exciting and it's just bizarre. And I'm dumbfounded by it constantly, but essentially how it all happened was, the Flatliners were scheduled to play back in 2017 at the Fest in Gainesville. And we were on the same show as Hot Water Music. So the morning of the show, Paul and I from the Flats went to load in, and we were just getting our stuff ready for the show. And the idea was we're going to load in and then we're going to kind of like fuck off and go back to our hotel. Quit bragging, I know. And we were gonna, we're not sleeping in the van with a case of Steel Reserve on the roof of the van anymon. What we did for the first year or two at Fest. But
yeah, this is impressive. I was like, I didn't realize how fat on the dole you guys. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I ran into George Rebello, the drummer from Hot Water Music there, and like we'd known at this point we've toured with Hot Water Music. We've toured with the Bouncing Souls since George joined the Bouncing Souls. We did tour, at least one tour with Against Me when he was in Against Me. We've known him pretty well for a while. And he looked kind of, I don't know, he was bugging out a little bit about the show. And all of a sudden it became a thing that Chris Wallard from Hot Water Music couldn't play the show that night. But they were there. Chuck lives in California. He'd flown in. Everyone was there ready to play, and they were going to headline this show at the Fest, which is, like, this is also like a hometown show for Hot Water Music. And of all the Fest bands, they're one of, if not the most kind of Fest band, right? So it was like a big deal, and Wallard couldn't play. So in that moment, George was like, well, I think we might play as a fucking three-piece, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and was like, could you play any songs? And I was like, no. I immediately turned him down. And I didn't think he was serious. It was a confusing moment. And then we kept talking about it for a couple of minutes, and it dawned on me, like, this is like, these guys need some help. And I didn't think, so I'm going to help them. I thought, let's find someone to to properly do this job and fill in for this, for Chris Wallard at the show. And what ended up happening was I went back to the hotel, and Chuck texted me the set list they were going to do. And then George and I talked again on the phone, and then Jason and I spoke. Like, there was all these kind of swirling conversations happening like pretty quickly. And then before I knew it, I had like 8 or 9 songs on a list in front of me that I was going to learn. And this was all like, I was going to play a show with the Flats at like 6:30, and then Tim Barry was going to play, and then Snapcase was going to play, and then Hot Water was playing. So there was not a lot of turnaround time here between sets. And before I knew it, like, the day is kind of a blur because I went back and just started like learning. And being a longtime fan, I knew where the songs already went, but I never really tried to like sit down and play a lot of these songs before, to be honest. So it was fucking insane. And then Flats played the show, which felt great because before that, I literally hadn't spoken in like 4 days because we had just come home from a 6-week European tour where I got like crazy sick on and like lost my voice. So we didn't even know if we were going to play Fest. And then all of a sudden, like, we're there. I haven't talked in a week almost. we're playing a show. Then all of a sudden I'm going to play this other set now with a band. Like I didn't know what was going to happen once I opened my voice when I started singing the flat set, and everything went fine. So I was very relieved for like all of 10 seconds. And then Chuck and I met up at the show and started like going over songs together. And I was like, oh my God, just couldn't stop sweating. I was so nervous. We're in this backstage room behind this concrete stage at Fest while Snapcase is playing super loud. And the dude's like, no. Just that one frequency he just keeps hitting with his voice. Like,
he loves that. No, that,
he does
that
love that
spot.
And that's no shade. I'm a Snapcase fan, but I was like, damn, I would have loved to watch this set right now. But all I could hear was his voice. And then I'm looking at Chuck, and we both, like, in this room, it's so loud, and we're trying to like figure out these parts. He's trying to help me figure out these parts, I should say. But we have 2 unplugged electric guitars in a really loud room where another band's song is louder than anything we're doing, in that moment. It was crazy. So we did all we could preparation wise. They hit the stage as a 3-piece for a few songs, and then I came out after and played the rest of the set with them. And I like fully blacked out, like fully do not remember being on stage aside from like the end of it. It's just, I remember putting my guitar down and like, what happened? And I just had this kind of weird moment where I came back to, but it was terrifying. It's fucking terrifying.
How did you like?
Apparently it was okay.
Did you fuck up?
Probably. Everyone, my friends that were there were very nice and they were very excited. And it was just such a bizarre, surreal experience that even not only for me, but for like people that know me or know the bands. And like, I think a lot of Flatliners fans would probably, it's pretty easy to tell that we're big Hot Water Music fans as well. You know what I mean? So even people I don't know, they're just fans of my music, could probably tell it's a big deal.
You have the tattoo, right? Like you've got a Hot Water Music tattoo, right? Yeah.
I do.
Is it visible when you play in Hot Water Music, or do you cover it up?
I cover it up because, well, I can't play shows in shorts and feel cool. I feel like it's kind of a rule, so it's on my leg. So.
Yeah, it's kind of, the jury's still out on that one. It's a complicated time for shorts on stage. That's so cool. Like, that's literally incredible. And I can't help but think, it reminds me of 2 things. I think it's pretty obvious what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Travis Barker replacing Scott Rayner. And then it also reminds me of Matt Skiba replacing Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of, I guess I'm curious, like, have you ever, is anyone mad that you're the new Chris? Has that ever happened? Like, are there like lurkers?
People have been like, each time the band shares something on Instagram, for instance, and like you can go through the comments and read it. A lot of people, if it's, since this show, my presence in this band has has remained, and now into like a permanent position, right? Like now I'm in the band, which is
you're in the press crazier. Like you're like sort of peeking around.
And to be honest with you, it is it's probably a good thing that your hairline is receding because you look very young compared to the rest of them.
They needed something. They're like, he's the guy. Yeah. Look at his fucking hairline. I mean, it was. I don't know. It's everyone has been very gracious and very kind. Most of the folks writing stuff in when, my involvement was really just kind of feeling it and playing shows with the band. It was really just people asking like, where's Chris Wallard? Is Chris Wallard okay? Will we see Chris Wallard again? It was a lot of like questions about him. Every once in a while they'd be like, oh, the new guy's cool too. But it was always kind of posed to people as like, I'm just keeping someone's seat warm, so to speak. So it was, and the first while that I was involved, it was pretty much that. It was kind of like, okay, so the Fest show happened, and then right after that show, like, hey, we have a set tomorrow, like a secret set tomorrow. Do you want to do that too? So I did that one, and that felt way better. I did not black out on stage, and it was super fun, and it was like a really small club show, and it was so much fun. After that show, they told me about 3 shows they had coming up, and it just kind of went that way for a while. So during all that, people were curious as to what the hell was really going on. But like, I kept thinking, like, we did this run of Florida shows like pretty early on in my involvement. Like, I kept thinking like, one of these like dudes, like old friends, is gonna come out of the fucking swamp and just be like, "Who the fuck are you little kid?" You know what I mean? But everyone was really cool. Everyone's been super, super cool, and I think people. I hope people can tell that I'm coming to it from a place of ultimate respect, because this is a complete trip, and they are like Hollywood Music is one of my favorite bands. So now to find myself in these shoes is just, like I keep saying, it's just very surreal. So I can't just kind of dick around and phone it in. Like, I got to give it my all. So I hope that comes across, and I hope that if anyone was on the fence, they'd at least still be able to come to a show and enjoy it, because it's still the songs they love. Just now there's just one less bearded guy on stage playing them.
Yeah, I'm like looking in the Zoom here, and you haven't learned to grow a beard since you joined Hot Water.
I can't do it.
It didn't happen.
Well,
I can't do it.
The last thing I want to just riff on with the Blink-182 thing is that, when Matt Skiba replaced Tom DeLonge in the first press photo, he was wearing like a Hurley hat, and they were like, it seemed like they were trying to pass him off as Tom DeLonge. And I went to see them at Cowboys Casino in Calgary, and definitely no one knew that it was a different guy at all. Like, no one knew what was going on, because they were just there to hear all the small things. But like, I do kind of like that at least, even if you can't really pull off the look, they did swap out a Chris for a Chris. I mean, that it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's bizarre. There was one show that I early on that I couldn't do because Flats had stuff booked. This was maybe a couple weeks after that whole fest thing. And so they got Chris from Less Than Jake to do it. Just another tall white Chris.
You know what, though? I will say I watched one of those videos in preparing for this episode. I was like, how did Chris DeMix do? Because, like, I mean, obviously, like, think Chris rocks. But
you're working on your Chris rankings before?
Yeah, I was like, Chris Power rankings, just wanted to come into it, honest and educated. And
that's right.
You always, like, I could always kind of picture it. Like, I remember that weekend, that fest, I was not there, but like, it was a thing that was happening, like, on the internet. People were messaging about it. This was like it was a big deal, and also kind of concerning because people weren't sure what was up with Chris Wallard, as you said, right? So it was kind of like, what the fuck's happening? Oh my God, now this dude that we fucking know is in Hot Water. Like, it was pretty wild, but I could picture it, right? Like, Chris has a very like stoic stage presence in a way that like you don't, in a way that I feel like, Chris Waller doesn't, and that generally doesn't see. I had trouble imagining it fitting with Hot Water Music. And then I watched some videos of him playing in Brazil, and I was like, this is uncomfortable. Like, no disrespect, but like, it does not, it sounds fine, but it doesn't look convincing,
Well, he's like a secret shredder too. I mean, if you're a Less Than Jake fan, or just know even like a hit of theirs, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of, I don't know, it's not like ska music doesn't really lend itself to make like a lot of cool guitar moments, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, sorry, ska, but I mean, but he's like an incredible guitar player, and I don't know, like his voice, just he can always like, I feel like he's got one of those voices that no matter how long he's been on the road for, he just like can laser beam focus his way to the note he has to sing. But it's a different style, right? It's a different style. Yeah. But I know he had fun, and him and I, like, early on, it was so fucking funny. Like, him and I FaceTimed a few times to go over parts for songs, and I was like, I don't know, I just learned these songs.
Like, I didn't write these. This is not.
It was really cool. It was the whole thing has just been like this really, especially the fan bases, like what I've seen and kind of been able to take in from like the fan base's reaction and everything, is that people are kind of just like, I don't know, they're just smiling about it or something. It feels that way, at least to us. Like it's everyone has been super supportive of it, and like it's definitely a strange scenario that doesn't always happen, and there aren't many other examples I can think of where like Chris Wallard is still in Hot Water Music, like he has been this whole time. He's just not on the road, so it's interesting. Like, it's kind of similar to what like Brett Gurewitz is doing in Josiah's favorite band, Bad Religion. And I mean, I think at a certain point, like the story goes that he was either too busy with Epitaph kind of like blowing up back in the day, or that he just didn't want to tour as much, or both. So they got other people to join the band and fill in, but he still like writes a lot of Bad Religion stuff. So I don't know, it doesn't happen too often, but I'm thankful to like be a part of it. And honestly, if the Flats hadn't been on that show at Fest, and I hadn't have gone to Loden that day, like, I don't know if it would have happened. Like, it feels very serendipitous. And it feels like it was like a very, like, just, I don't know, funny timing thing of that I was just there when George really found out what was going on, and he was looking at me. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, it wasn't like a text or a phone call or someone they had to think of. I was like literally there in front of him. I don't know.
It's fucked. Cool. It's super fucked. Like, right place, right time. Fun. Like, you're just like, is fate real? Is Josiah right about everything? I don't want to go that far.
I mean, to be fair, you're also like an accomplished musician, dude. Like, it's not like you're just like some fucking guy. It's like this. Let's be honest here.
Like you're just like a random guy.
This fucking loser from Ontario that listens to our podcast.
Can anyone in the crowd play?
It's just the
Trusty
guy.
Chords?
It's just the guy fucking tapping the keg of PBR backstage at Fast and George. Like, you.
This fucking guy.
This fucking loser.
In addition to like having to hide your hot water music tattoo now, I had forgotten about this, but as Josiah mentioned, we've gotten in this habit of like searching for, what people that we follow on Twitter have said about a band or a song. This was like the most fruitful episode I think we've had.
This is like how lazy the pod has gotten, where we're just
research. But then you had like a punk night called Trusty Chords. Like for years, you literally ran a night named after this song.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't name it myself, but I was involved with like a few of those parties. Yeah, where it was literally just me playing my iPod, and then I would play it on shuffle, and then exactly. It was usually at Sneaky D's. I think it was always at Sneaky D's, but it was one of those nights where like people would just come hang out, and then I would forget I was DJing because I'd just be kind of standing at the bar and be like, "Oh, I didn't mean to play this song," because I had just left my iPod on the table. You know what I mean? Yeah.
just playing ABBA, which does rock.
Super, yeah. Oh, absolutely rock.
Doing this song though, so like Trusty Chords specifically, us talking about it in this episode, when you and I were texting, you were like, "This is basically like the preeminent. This is the fest song." It always struck me as especially like wild that you're in the position that you're in now in the band, because like you're not replacing, no offense to any drummers listening to this, a drummer. Like you have stepped into the shoes of one of two like primary vocalists, songwriters in this band. And while Hot Water have a multitude of hits, Trusty Chords is kind of like the fucking big song, and you get to sing it. I remember thinking that was fucked when I saw you play in the band for the first time at that Danforth show in Toronto. That I think was like, that was the first time you would come to Toronto for. And I remember the energy being like very fucking cool in that room. Cause it was like, it's like, we've seen this guy play a lot. And now he's in that band too. It's very exciting. But like, what was it like for you playing this song for the first time, or at least the first time that you remember playing Trusty Chords?
So the first time I played it was that first show, so I don't remember playing it. I had the lyrics taped up, even though I knew them. You know what I mean? I had them like on like a pizza box or something.
So like even when you were blacked out, you were singing it. Like it wasn't like you were just playing guitar. You had to sing it that very first time too.
Yeah. Oh that was the only song, from what I remember, that was the only song from that show that I sang. We did do another song that was like off Hot Water's record, Light It Up, that had just come out that year, but it's a Wallard song on the record, but Chuck sang it live, and we've actually just kept it that way ever since. A song called Vultures. But this song, this was the only one I was going to sing. And like, I know these lyrics and I love this song and I have for so long, but I was like, I got to write these lyrics down for the show because I don't know what my brain and my body are going to do in that moment. And I'm glad I did.
It's like when people fuck up singing the national anthem. A big sporting event. It's like, these words.
It's like when Matt Skiba sang, "Turn on the lights down low, turn on the lights down low." I did a spit take. It's just so great to remember the era of Matt Skiba first replacing Tom.
It's a huge song that means a lot to a lot of people. I think in that world of like under that part of the punk umbrella, especially, and to be able to not only like kind of have a seat with the band at the table and everything, that already blows my mind. But yeah, like having like this song bestowed upon me, it's like, you're gonna sing this now. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. But I mean, I gotta say, like the guys in the band, And I mean, Chris Wallard included in this, because I mean, I had a lot of time on the road with the guys, excluding Chris, for a number of years before, like recently we've been able to like see each other and talk and hang out and stuff like that. But on the road, like he wasn't there because I was there. Right. So everyone has been so on top of the fan base, like being so gracious about it. Like the guys in the band have been so good at like welcoming me into this scenario and making me feel at home and like super comfortable and just a part of everything. And it's still like, it's so funny. Like after a show, I'll be like, maybe Chuck should sing that song. Trusty Chords. I'm like, no, you got it. Like that's just my nerves and my fandom and me remembering, being 14, seeing this band live, and now finding myself on stage with them. Like that's where like me after the show being like, I don't know, man, maybe someone else should fucking sing this song comes from. But they're always cool with this kind of trusting, you get that. They've just been very amazing with trusting me with this whole thing.
With the chords. And, trusting you with the chords.
With the chords. And it's beautiful, man. It really is so beautiful. And it's hard not to gush about it because I still don't really believe or understand how I found myself in this position. But it's funny, like this is the song. There are so many songs, quote unquote, for hot water music fans, but like this is the fucking song, And it's also, I think it's really funny that this is the song that I think hot water music fans know the lyrics to the least somehow. Like I feel like I see a lot of people at shows singing along, but they're not any of the right words usually.
Limbo Scene, I'll be honest, like I've listened to this song, 2,000 times if I've listened to it once. And Limbo Scene was like new to me today. I was like, Limbo Scene, that's an interesting evocative phrase.
So what did you think it was?
I don't think I thought. I was just like limousine. Limousine. Well, it sounded like limousine in the covers, and that's when I was like, it can't be.
Oh yeah, one
limousine.
of the. This is a spoiler, but now I understand why one of the cover artists was called Limousine.
Yeah, limousine.
So pretend I already. When you get to that part, pretend that
it's new. It's new. You're always been in on the joke, and it was only in listening to the covers where I was like, why is everyone saying limousine here? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's basically the lyric. And then I had the same thought of like, what did I think that this was? And I was like, guess I'll never know now, like because that version of my brain has been written over. So I really wonder if it's the adrenaline, like when this song happens at a show, and I can attest to this from seeing this song live a bunch and now playing it a bunch. When this song happens in the set, like a shift, like an energy shift occurs. And like we all know when we go to like see our favorite bands play. So this is like any Bad Religion song for Josiah, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a fucking sea shanty in the pit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know. It just it could just be the adrenaline of like the song kind of finally hitting you at a show, or if it's just that the melody of the song is just so simple but so effective that like you don't really need to know the words. You could have heard this song every day of your life for however long it's been since it came out. I mean, it's been almost 20 years, I think. But you know what I mean? Like you don't really need to know the words because you can just glide your way through it because it's just like, I don't know, there's something pretty magical about it, but it's hilarious how like, yeah, so few people know, even like there's like the Jameson reference in the chorus and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I feel
it's a vibe-based song.
Yeah, I feel like I've blown a couple people's minds being like, yeah, that's the lyric. They're like, no way, really? Like, yeah, that's the lyric.
It really, that lyric really bothered Josiah as a teetotaler.
Yeah, don't be.
I mean, if you're not a drinker, I understand. I got to admit too, this kind of feels like you guys are interviewing like the person from the reboot about like what was it like making the original.
I learned a lot from, like I met the original actors and I was like very inspired by their
shadowed them for a while.
It's like we're doing a Fuller House interview right now. Chris, I want to know this. I want to play devil for a second and find out like what's kind of what were you, now that you're in hot water music, what are you disillusioned by? Like, oh my God, this guy's so corny about this, or like, man, these guys actually secretly, I don't know.
About the band? Ooh, great question. I think, well, the band has gone on hiatus once or twice, split up, had other projects born out of, like just the downtime out from this band and everything.
They
so
love
like, I think
to
the thing
break
that
up.
surprised me, they've broken up a few times, and like
Yeah.
I think the thing that surprised me the most is how like
It's because they're in the
all
limbo
about 10
scene,
years.
right? That's what happens.
Yeah, exactly. In the back of the limbo scene, the stretch limbo scene. They're all about 10 years older than me, just about, and I don't know, for like grown ass men, like they're pretty good at communicating with each other, and stuff like that. So I was like pleasantly surprised that after getting to know the guys a little bit from our bands touring together and playing shows and whatever over the years, like you get a feel for how these people are as people, but it's the people on tour, right? So it's not like maybe a clear or very accurate depiction of how like, this person really is day to day as a human being, because touring can be such a strange routine and everything. But, now getting to like ride in the van with everyone and really be around everyone 24/7 on the road, you learn a lot more about everyone. And like, I don't know, everyone kind of gives each other like their space and understanding and time to kind of weigh in on things. And with a band with that much history, there's a lot of fucking history, I guess, you know what I mean? And it was just surprising to be like in the mix and just be like, yeah, this is pretty chill. It's pretty mellow. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of bands that have broken up once or twice, there's always going to be a lore of like how tumultuous things can be. I mean, shit, like even with all the Blink stuff over the years, you know what I mean? That I don't know if you guys have ever heard Blink 155 is this really cool podcast that used to exist, but it was
This exists.
You should check it out. Yeah.
I'm good on podcasts.
Yeah.
But there's, after any band that goes through that kind of stuff, like it's inevitable, I think, that some fan fiction kind of, comes into play. And yeah, it was kind of nice just to learn that everyone's like pretty positive in the Hot Water Music unit and like down to just be a band and kind of just keep things fun for the most part. Like that's kind of like number one, is just like, is it fun? Like, are we having fun? Is it worth doing? Is it cool? They don't need to, no band needs to be a band, especially a band that's 27 years deep. Like you've done your time. You can call it if you want to, and they still want to do it. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a testament to like how the guys, what they mean to each other. You know what I mean? And especially through everything with, Chris Wallard's departure from playing shows recently and my involvement, everything, like they're still like there for each other, even if he's not on the stage, which is really cool. So that's like the serious answer. And then the other answer is like, man, Chuck Reagan fucking does love barbecue. That motherfucker loves to barbecue.
It's not
that shit is no joke. No, that shit is no joke. No joke.
I do really like that Hot Water Music, the sort of festiest band you could possibly conjure in your mind, and fest maybe being a bit of a, occasional hotbed of toxic masculinity and the sort of behaviors associated with it. That their big reveal is like that they're actually sensitive and good at communications. There you go. Hot Water Music dismantling notions of toxic masculinity through chaos.
And keep in mind, the question was presented, what were you disappointed to learn about them? So that really says something as well.
Listen, again, Chris isn't new. This isn't like a kid who was pulled out of the audience. He's done some press before, Josiah. He's not going to get.
Yeah, I can read between the lines. He's saying he likes being in Hot Water Music better than the Flatliners. I get it.
That's the exclaim. If only you still wrote for exclaim,
Yeah, exactly.
You could do some clickbaity headlines.
I'm just here to infiltrate the Hot Water Music world, so we can get a ska water music.
Oh yeah. To be honest with you,
just get a couple of upstrokes in there.
You're making me feel like the Hot Water Music fans are just a bunch of nerds. Like no one's mad about anything. We got to get some animosity going. We got to stir this pot a little bit. So maybe I got to get on the subreddit.
I might not be digging deep enough.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Josiah will
make
step
some
up
shit
here.
happen.
He's reliable.
I'm going to ruin your life.
Chris, look, speaking of ruining your life, we have ruined enough of your evening, insisting that you tell us about how sick it is to be in Hot Water Music. You do have another band that people love. You have solo music that people love. What else can you legally tell us that you are up to as shows start again, as you get to return to, work entertaining us?
Oh gosh, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Contractually, I'm not allowed to speak about any of it at the moment. That's just the reality. Yeah, that's just the reality of being in a couple bands. You just gotta. I just can't. It's either that I can't keep shit straight between what's happening with both bands, or that things are super cool and serious, and I'm not allowed to talk about them.
I think
it's the former. I'm pretty sure it's the former. I can't.
Just mixing things up. You're like, no, Hot Water Music is very excited about a return to our ska punk roots. Wait, no, sorry, I don't fucking know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just kind of riding out the storm. I was able to play a show last week, which felt incredible. And there's a lot of fun shit from both bands happening behind the scenes. So I don't know. Till then, just keep listening to 155. It's my favorite podcast. It's same with Josiah every week. They usually keep the guests waiting. Not as long as they kept me waiting, actually, tonight.
We stopped joking about it, but we're still doing it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We're just...
we weren't doing it before when we were joking about it, but now we are not mentioning it, but actually do it. Is that what? Yeah. There we go. There it is.
There is a real layered joke here. And Chris, this whole month, when I messaged you that we were doing this and you were like, oh, finally Orcore. And I was like, the whole month is we're doing fest bands. And something that we didn't really talk too much about on the pod, but I still owe you a debt of gratitude for, which is that the very first fest that I went to was with you guys, with the Flats, where do you remember the first fest that you played?
Yeah. Fest 6 was the first one we played.
So that was it. So you guys did Fest 6 and you came back and I remember doing an interview with you in my old apartment above a meth lab on Ossington. And I was asking you so many questions about Fest and it was so fucking obvious that I was trying to get you guys to be like, do you want to come film something or whatever? And finally, I think Paul was like, look, do you want to come? And I was like, listen, if you got room in the van,
I've already packed the bag.
I got a video or something.
Go bag. Yeah.
Maybe that would be chill. And you guys let me tag along with you. Let me sleep in your hotel room. And that was when they started getting real intense with the wristbands at the Holiday Inn. And there was a whole thing that had to be done to get me a wristband. And you guys were just incredibly generous hosts. And, fucked up the next 7 years of my life or whatever, which I'm I'm still very grateful for that being my introduction into this world that I fell so intensely in love with. Getting to go down to Gainesville every year was through you specifically, you and the rest of the Flats being so generous. And I do really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, dude. Was that the, we're just glad we can make your dream come true.
That's it. Just making a young boy's dream come true, which you know something about. Yeah.
And man, I just love having you in the DMs. So that's really what I got to say.
So we're all thankful for something. But yeah, Chris, thank you so much for your time. And please tell Chuck and the fellas and also the
not
Flats
to listen.
That we say what's up.
Tell them not to listen.
Yeah, tell them no. Please tell Chuck to finally stop listening to 155. This is the 1 week that he's not allowed to listen.
I'll get him to fire up the barbecue for you.
Thank you.
It's on.
Thanks.
Sam, in your most burly and annoying and throat-shredding the voice, can you explain to us what's about to happen on the episode?
I can, Josiah. We're about to listen to covers. And all covers come from our Patreon gatekeepers, and they were made in less than 96 hours. For $5 a month, you get the early tip on next week's song, plus bonus episodes, early episodes, newsletter, and the Discord. All these songs will be available in full on the... I'm doing it kind of like a wrestling promo, actually.
But I was kind of thinking it is wrestling-y as well.
It is kind of wrestling-y, yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
But as I was saying, all these songs will be available in full on the 155 Bandcamp on Monday. I was doing wrestler hands too there, so it didn't really work. The worst fucking thing is all those. They always every fucking guy who sings in a band like that is always like, "Thank you" afterwards. It makes you fucking posers, man. All right, I could do it. I could be in the fucking band like that. Popular Junior Battles would have been. Fuck you. Sorry, let's go.
I don't think you could. I don't think it would. See, you think you could do it, but everyone would think that you were a wrestling guy, a wrestler. Is what I'm trying to say, not a wrestling guy.
The fabulous wrestling guys.
Up first is our very own employee, Sparkling Caleb, who delivers trusty chords that I trust. This episode is about chords, right? Writes Caleb. Well, I mean, I think I don't know what. I mean, we've certainly struck a chord. I'm just trying to riff here for some reason. I don't know why.
Great chord. I guess, do we think that's Caleb's most trusted chord?
Well, there is a gap in here. Maybe this chord is one of those frequencies that people over a certain age can't hear. Oh, there we go.
New chord. New chord dropped. I think I prefer the second chord. What about you?
I mean, I think they're playing off each other really nicely, so... That is a
dynamic,
beautiful
So I guess
production.
Caleb only trusts two chords.
Well, you gotta. That's probably the smart way to live, because as you get older, you realize that you have a lot of acquaintances, but only a few close chords. Really.
Mm-hmm. That's actually pretty good.
Limousine, Trusty chords. This is Tender Hell on vocals, Nick from Split Hairs on drum, and Sam, 20th Century on guitar. So it's basically Tender Hell meets Split Hairs. I think one of the few combinations that hasn't happened yet. I mean, it's just constant combinations. Collab season's been happening all year, but here's Limousine with Trusty chords.
You'll get it right sometime, you will. I tell myself that every day. You don't need to latch on to anything. You'll just end up back here in your limbo scene. It's repetitious and exhausting. I might need some therapy or anything to keep me in check through the day, each and every day. Don't think about your lover. You're
wow.
Steady shaking. I might need a sedative, but I hate the taste of medicine. You just need to let her go. These pills shaking in my head just make me feel defeated, like I'm not able to just let her go. Oh.
That's so beautiful.
Wow. I mean, look, we are on the record as being big fans of Split Hairs, the house band, 20th Century, always great, Tender Hell. Like, this is a real murderer's row of things we're fans of. That was fucking sick and gorgeous.
That was a great, but it's interesting how they sort of brought out different sounds from each other, because it didn't really sound like any Tender Hell or any 20th Century. It sounded like a little bit twinkle emo and also like incredibly sexy R&B. And it was somehow hot water music, which was probably the least sexy thing I can. Well, no, it's probably sexy to some. I'm sorry for saying that.
I think it's quite sexy. So
Todd,
don't erase my.
Now here's a funny name: Todd Water Killings. Kind of a funny play on that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
This is called Rusty Chord.
And exhausting, I might need the therapy. Anything to keep me in check through the day, through the day, through the day. Don't think about your lover. You're already steady shaking. I might need a sedative, but I hate the taste of medicine. You need to let it go.
See, Todd Killings makes everything that I previously found maybe too earnest or not my vibe. As soon as it goes through the Todd Killings filter, it becomes just like an American standard in my mind. It's so sick.
It really is like what I love is when Todd Killings is doing a song that feels definitively like a me song, and I know that it is going to be the moment that happens for you, and it always delivers in a way that I don't necessarily I'm not able to predict, but it delivers.
It's so true. Okay, up next is I'll See You Later with Trusty Chords. We're starting 44 seconds in. Kind of like the disintegration loops or something.
Yeah, the disintegration poops that you get after a diet of only 5-star pizza and PBR.
Thank you. The whole time I was like, you got to find a rhyme in there. William Basinski, Gainesville, Fast. It's just none of it was happening. And you know what? Yours was pretty awful, but we got through it, and we
got there together.
We lived to tell the tale. And here's Baby Tyler. That was so sick.
That was fucking awesome.
Here's the thing about the song that I forgot to mention earlier is that I do love that underneath everything you can kind of hear a constant noodling throughout, and Baby Tyler reminded me of that because there's a lot of noodling going on in this song, which I do
big time
respect.
noodle energy. Do you think a baby has learned to trust? Like, do babies when do babies learn to trust?
Wow. I mean, isn't that just kind of they probably learn immediately as they are being birthed or cesarean in some of our cases. But I think probably that's an inherent thing, no? Isn't their trust ruined later on? I don't know.
Yeah, trust versus mistrust stage is the first stage of psychologist Eric Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. The stage begins at birth.
Name is Eric twice. So he
it's a big could almost be a Fest guy, but
yes, exactly.
Wow.
I feel like there's a thing where, like, if you're born in the normal way, you like inherit your parent, like your mother or the person birthing you inherit their like probiotic microbe or something, so that your farts will smell the same as your mom's for your whole life. Or I feel like
really
that was some like kind of wacky fact but maybe it's fake. I don't know. Just
mom fart smell same. Oh wow. Okay. Well, this is the reason why other people's farts smell worse to you is because when you live with your family, you tend to have similar diets.
Yeah, I think there's something else that you inherit as you kind of go through the schmear of birth. But I don't know. Who knows? I mean, this isn't a science podcast fully. A little bit. Hot water music, kind of the logo alone looks kind of science, like a science symbol, in my opinion.
It kind of looks like a fart, though.
Science to me is a tomorrow problem, which is the name of our next artist, who is my dear friend Matt. Let's go.
I just can't seem to get away. There's no such thing as escape, even with the sedatives. You're always in the same state,
Yes.
Wow. Like full on Reggie in the Full Effect, like
Totally.
that perfect mid tempo. Like, oh, that was so great.
Well, I was going to say it reminded me of the Rentals, and I was thinking it's kind of funny because our apartment in Montreal used to be Matt and Kristen's apartment, and so kind of the Rentals kind of it's a whole thing you could do. You know,
I feel like Reggie in the Full Effect is like Fest's the Rentals.
Yeah, that makes sense because also I never got into it. It was never for me. I feel like. Was there a controversy with Reggie and the Full Effect recently, or something happened? Or
It was one of those things that I remember. It was sort of hard to parse. Like he's not in the Get Up Kids anymore, and it seemed like there were maybe some implications that like there was some shitty behavior, but like I didn't read about it. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things.
See,
where
the people
I'm
who
going
are-
to Google it now. And
the people who are afraid that cancel culture is a real thing, like, really assume that we're all actually reading stuff all the time. But it's more like there's just kind of like a vibe that happens where you're just kind of like, what was the deal with that again? Which is, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but you know, I wouldn't be worried about cancel culture too much because no one reads anything. Is what I'm trying to say.
It's really hard to read. Yeah, there's like something because he was also in My Chemical Romance, and it's like someone being like, "I heard there were allegations," and people are like, "There's nothing that I've got." So it's like, I don't know, but
Well,
I never liked Reggie in the Full Effect.
No, I like Tomorrow Problem a lot better.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt. Thank you for your cover that inspired
Sorry
us
about
to
that.
talk
Yeah,
about
sorry.
that. Tea Party music up next. Trusty Chords. This looks to be a joke about the band The Tea Party, I'm pretty sure. This is...
Okay.
Tea Party music is an experimental recording project comprised of Fred of the Pond. That's someone's joke name. And Jeff Martin, which is the guy from The Tea Party, right? The CanCon?
Yes, correct. Yeah, he's the Doors ass magician man who fronts the Tea Party.
The duo sample found sounds and toy instruments to create angular walls of sound that play with the concept of space. A message from the artist. This project started to spiral out of control. It became too chaotic and strayed far from the original song. We took out the guitar solos, Hot Springs field recordings, and the Nightcore section, and what is left is our most stripped down, back to basics cover yet. So this is 7 minutes long. I'm already like low-key annoyed and scared about this one, but we're starting 3 minutes and 15 seconds in. Let's go. That's the best kind of awesome. That's the best kind of troll where you have me worried it's going to be a 7 minute The Tea Party impression, and instead it's just like this beautiful chamber pop dark goth cover of it. That was so good.
Like truly an epic troll job. That was fucking awesome.
That's so good. Up next is Chores and Homework featuring Kevers. I do love the band name Chores and Homework. It seems like a sort of proto-fest kind of band. Like, I don't know. Was there a band called Bread and Water or something? Or like having that ampersand in the middle of two nouns just feels like a very self-serious punk band name.
Glass and Ashes.
But then for the
kind of
for the words,
no idea band.
For the words to be Chores and Homework, it's so good. Here we go. rules.
That fucking ruled. What did they change Jameson to?
I didn't catch it. I forgot that they say Jameson. I think I blocked that out, so I didn't catch it. But that definitely didn't sound like what I imagined the band Chords and Homework would sound like, which I'm just picturing like a photocopied logo that has like gears on it or something, and it's like the typewriter font, and it's really, really annoying and raspy, but it's all about like not wanting to work on social studies homework. And now it's like the chore wheel keeps spinning and it's unfair or something.
The chore wheel is always spinning.
But that was really good.
That was fucking awesome.
Also, shout out Kevers, also a great name. What's up, Kevers? Okay, up next, Teen Jazz. Obviously, there's a big one for Teen Jazz because he is a Sam in the other great two kinds of things you can be. As you can probably guess, I love this band and I love this song. The last show I went to before the pandemic was Hot Water Music playing a complete Caution set in Toronto. After seeing the Flatliners countless of times from back when I was first old enough to go to shows, it was pretty surreal to see one of us, Chris Cresswell, on the stage playing these songs. Now, that being said, I know full well of the potential danger of just pulling out an acoustic guitar and howling out this song. Excuse me. My sapsucker really got the best of me there. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was like that was a dramatic pause.
I was trying to get through it, but I got a little. No, I was getting emotional because of the thinking about all the old men on YouTube who were howling this song out that we didn't get to watch. A quick YouTube search will show way too many middle-aged men doing just that. It's fine, I guess, but you really don't need to record it. Instead, I tried to do something a bit more tasteful. Hopefully, it sounds like that. If not, at least know that I tried not to go full on house party acoustic jam. So I like that kind of tension. Someone trying to restrain the middle-aged man within. Isn't that relatable? Here's Teen Jazz with Trusty Chords.
Fucking right.
Is it just me, or did I have like major Third Eye Blind energy?
Yeah, totally. Like second half of an album deep cut. Like,
yeah, or like a session of like a stripped down version of a Third Eye Blind song. That was sick. I kind of got lost in it.
Like you took a risk there, and it was absolutely worth it. Yeah, it was sort of like just really good.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to really say much more, but that was sick. I played it for longer than a minute because I was kind of lost in it. It was beautiful.
I did not feel. I did not feel like I was being ushered into the kitchen at a house show.
No,
so,
absolutely
huge victory. I wasn't being shushed.
I felt like instead I was at a sort of a dinner party where the whole party ends up in the kitchen just naturally, and there's an island. It was kind of more like that, kind of swanky.
Totally, kitchen with an island.
Jake Rolfe. Jake Rolfe has not submitted since Green May, but he writes, "I'm back thanks to an otherwise uneventful weekend." Well, thanks for prioritizing us, Jake. Okay, we're starting 40 seconds in. Who?
Don't think about your lover. You're ready, steady, shaking, man, you sedative. But I hate the taste of medicine, just
Strokes.
let it go.
Well, I will say this also sounds an awful lot like Tom Petty. Although, I mean, I guess this is literally the Strokes.
That's kind of cool. We kind of We knew it was in the air.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, if you look, this may not be the only time that it's in the air.
That was sick. Shout out to my dog, Jake Rolfe.
Bark, bark. But okay, here's a question. Like, is that the Strokes? Or like, I feel like there's a bit of a like Werewolves of London, Sweet Home Alabama thing happening. Where is that Last Night or is that American Girl? It's American Girl.
I mean, I think it was definitely Last Night, but I see what you're saying, and I think. Is it maybe because you're seeing that the next person's name is Petty Bill and the Heartbreakers?
Yes.
Maybe that's why. Because you just saw them there, but
and we talked about Tom Petty. Like it's just
it is true. It is all happening. I mean, it's all the pod magic is flowing freely. Petty Bill and the Heartbreakers says, as a well-documented hot water music vinyl collector and super fan, oh my god, all those covers printed large. I think there's no better week to make my return to the cover section of the pod. I also figured it would be the perfect opportunity to pay tribute to the true king of Gainesville. Rest in peace. So, yeah, I mean, there we go. You're right. It's all happening at once here.
Now, it's hard to say Petty Bill and the Heartbreakers. Is this a Tom Petty thing, or is the true king of Gainesville, in fact...
someone named Petty Bill, who's a mattress salesman.
Is it Petty Bill, or is it Ghostface? You know, I mean, we've only touched briefly on the murders.
Right. That's true. Now, is Scream a true story, or?
Yeah, that's what I've been fucking saying.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, let's go. Man, Tom Petty was so sick.
I might need a sedative, but
yes, this is good.
I hate this place. I love these codes, an empty fade, uneven score, and the pain, it filled my head. It's Jameson, and I'm not dead. You don't know how it feels. Yeah, you don't know how it feels. Yeah, you don't know how it feels.
Really good.
Excellent. Truly fucking excellent.
Very well done, Petty Bill. It gotta be a better way to play with Tom Petty, whatever your full name is. Well, this is obviously Bill from Silverstein, right? I just realized Bill being in the Bill. This is Bill Verstein. It must be.
I mean, it's like there might be other people playing on Bill, but you're right. That does make sense.
I think that's probably who it was. Well, yeah, I guess that's probably is the best you can do, Petty Bill. And you know what? I like it. I've decided I like it.
I'm glad you've come around on it.
Mikey Danny, finally closing us out. Trusty Chords decided to go with another Propagandhi-inspired cover this week. Much like last week, I didn't listen to it beforehand. I hope you both enjoy. So Mikey Danny has never heard the song. This is Propagandhi-inspired, which I'm just going to take everyone's word for it. This is almost 6 minutes long, though. So does Propagandhi songs get that long? These sort of Maynard-like epics that they do?
No, I feel like you're talking like maybe 5 minutes, but they're not actually Tool.
Okay, 43 seconds in is where we're starting. Here we go. Maybe this is Tool, actually. Maybe that's the joke. Hell yeah. It's Propagandhi.
That's not a funny joke.
It's the classic Propagandhi sound.
This is I don't like this joke.
This to me sounds like more like what a perfect circle sounds like in my head.
Perfect Circle got some tunes though, eh?
Yeah, they're kind of the weaker thans to Tool's Propagandhi.
True.
Is there gonna be any vocals? Just waiting for the vocals to drop.
Do you say Vokes and not Fox?
I mean, I was just having a second.
Just being playful.
I'm just trying to get through this, you know?
And that was Trusty Chords.